Welcome to Athena in Truth's YouTube channel, where we provide tips and insights for you to live your best life. I am your host, Heidi Fralick. Hello, everyone. Hi, Robin.
Hi, Heidi.
Hi. We just have a few announcements to make before we jump into today's topics. One is that the second part of our Choose Your Universe course is available for people to enroll now. It is on athenaintruth.com under the courses tab. If anybody is interested, please sign up because spaces are going to be limited to 20 participants. And also, we have a downloadable Kundalini course that is very close to being ready. I would assume probably within the next week at the longest, we should hopefully have that ready for people as well. That information on that course is also on our website under the courses tab. So I just wanted to make everyone aware of that. Robin, do you have anything you'd like to say before we get into today's?
Well, I'd just like to comment on the Q&A that it's really a beneficial service for people that maybe don't want to book a session. You have a question personally that you'd like to ask. We're really encouraging people to record their questions because Athena gets a much better vibrational read when she gets the voice with it. So if anyone would like to do it that way, that would be appreciated. The other thing I would mention that's very valuable that I think people are aware of is that there are written transmissions that go out. So we have a twice a month 1 hour Q&A that's included in that subscription, but we also twice a month at least, or is it more than that, Heidi? I'm not sure.
Twice a week.
Twice
Twice a
a
week.
uh, twice a week we're sending them
Transmission. Yep.
transmissions which are written that people are really finding great value in, and they can go back and use those or reread them at any time that they want to. I want to talk a little bit for a second about the first course that we did. We base it upon the Choose Your Universe book. It's really kind of a question stimulator. We don't follow the book that tightly. What happens is people really open up their energy field, and in those exchanges, we uncover a lot of energy entrapments, kind of what we do. We talk about in Q&A a little bit, and people become very connected to each other, very close after a certain number of times that we do this exchange, and they really find a big shift or a great benefit in having these smaller groups. So that's one of the reasons that we're keeping it at a small number, because we want to give a lot of individualized attention when we're doing those courses. And again, we use the book as a stimulator of material, but oftentimes we get off in other directions that people are happy that we got into. So that being said, I hope that we get some of the people that we had in the past course, but I hope we get some new people coming in as well.
Yes, yes. I'm looking forward to that. That starts October 13th, if anybody is interested. I didn't think I mentioned that before.
The other thing I
Okay.
might mention too, Heidi, in regard to the Kundalini course, we've been talking about this for a while. This is a direction that Athena really wants to move into, and it's a direction that I myself have a lot of experience in. And so this is kind of a prerequisite or a beginning course to assist you and start peeling some of those layers off that are preventing the Kundalini from rising. So I did a recording or a podcast the other day and talked about the divine feminine energy that sits at the base of the spine, and that's really what Kundalini energy is. And I talked really about human aspect of femininity wants to be desired. It's a very natural thing for whether you be a woman or a female orientated being. One of the things that is held in you very tightly is you want to be desired. You want someone to need you, to love you, to want you. And what I'm finding interesting is the Kundalini energy very much in the early stages, what actually stimulates that energy is she wants to be desired. She wants you to learn about her, talk about her, desire her, feel her. So basically, the way to get that energy activated is to really pursue it in any way that you can. And that actually will cause her to then pursue you. So it's like a stimulating desire stimulates desire. So that's kind of what some of the things we're going to be talking about in the course. And so I think anyone that's on that path, that's interested in raising their Kundalini, that downloadable course and the future ones that are going to come after it could play an intricate role or part in that.
All right. So today we were going to talk a little bit about passion, but what came to mind with that is that when we start to discussing what is revealed by the passion, it's kind of all directing us inward to looking at entrapments that are in our energetic field. All of these things, all of these works, um, the passion that we'll talk about today, or the courses that we've done with the Choose Your Universe book, it's all about helping people to release the entrapments in their energy centers, which eventually, hopefully, can lead you to awakening the Kundalini energy. And all of this stuff just seems to um, all roads kind of leading to the same destination.
Mhm.
So we're going to start off by asking, what is revealed for you in healing when you are following or chasing your passion?
Mhm. Well, if you were to talk to a lot of people that have become very successful and actually obtained the thing that they were desiring to have and they had a passion for it, they actually get very miserable afterwards. Not all, but a lot. And then they will have a lot of money. They will have a lot of things. Let's use that term. A lot of maybe notoriety or noticing. People will notice them or know them if they are famous. And oftentimes these will be some of the people with the greatest amount of suffering. They will be miserable. It will be magnified to such a degree within them because they will have all of these things that they thought were actually coming through that passion to them in the way that they would feel better. And it actually amplifies the signal of not feeling good. This is what actually happens to a lot of humans. They have alcoholism problems, they have drug problems, they have relationship problems, money problems, you name it. All of these things come up into the view of the human. And we would tell you that many, not all, will recognize this and they will actually get on a spiritual journey. They will actually try to uncover these energy entrapments or remove the things that have caused them to suffer or the need to manifest certain things that they think will relieve their suffering. Let's use that term. And so we're not against people getting things or being prosperous or becoming famous at all. We would love for them to enjoy it, but oftentimes they don't. And the reason that they don't is because the whole reason that they were needing that, the need for it or seeking it, was because they had an energy entrapment and they were trying to get rid of the feeling that they were having because of this thing that's stuck inside of them. Yeah. And so through the revealing of your passion, sometimes comes the revealing of things that make you suffer. And then in that way, the suffering gets magnified to such a degree that you either have to medicate it or you have to figure out some way to deal with it. And this is actually when a human will turn inside or start to look at what it is in their life that is perhaps represented through the passion that they have achieved, and yet they are not feeling good in the feeling of it. Yeah. So this is kind of our one of our statements that we made was the belief that I must have a passion or there is a passion. And if I had it, I would feel aligned in it. Isn't entirely true. What would happen is through your alignment, you would receive a passion and it would not be one that you even thought that was possible. Let's use that term. Usually when a human has an idea that a passion or a thing, let's say you're going to become a movie producer or an actress, or you're going to become a great musician or something, or a public speaker that's going to be revered everywhere. And you have this goal or this passion that you are working at it day and night. These are the ones that generally, when they obtain that passion, they suffer in it. They do not get the great feeling that they thought they were going to get. But then those that do the work on themselves, that actually are looking within themselves in the suffering or in the mirrors that are coming to them in their life expression, they actually get a passion revealed to them. And it will be something like Robin's doing that she could never expect would have come to her. And then, therefore, there is no suffering in it because the healing that comes when one is aligned to the soul purpose and not the human purpose is quite different in the way that it feels. Do you understand? So there's really two passions. There's one that you, the human, invent for yourself, and then there's one that you in the divine present to yourself. Yeah.
From what you described there, it almost seems like the passion that we create as humans for ourselves could end up not a whole lot different than suffering, um, not following a passion. There are people out there that are not liking their jobs and they're
Mm-hmm.
just going through the motions of their lives
Yeah.
and they're suffering,
Yep.
looking at passion as something like, oh my gosh, that could change my life. But really, they both end up leading to the same place if it's not coming from a divine passion.
Absolutely. That belief that you hold that something else outside of yourself is going to fix you, it's going to empower you, going to make you feel better. Yeah, it's actually going to blow you up. It's actually going to come. You might get it through efforting. This is what a human is doing. We would tell you, look at yourself in the way that you are efforting, the way you are needing, the way you are forcing, the way you're going after something as a human. And this is what we would call a human passion. Yeah, requires effort, requires hard work, requires connections, requires. Yeah. And then when it in fact actually comes to you, it brings with you a barrage of energy entrapments that are revealed to you in the way that you feel. And now you are in a tailspin because you have materialized what you thought would make you happy. And in fact, it hasn't. It has actually amplified unhappiness rather than made it better. Yeah. And so we're not saying that that same passion couldn't be redirected, that you couldn't then look at the energy entrapments that you're holding and be able to lift them off or release them in the love of yourself through looking at the experience and how you felt about it and allowing yourself for your feelings and surrendering to them. That experience that you have created in that false passion, let's use that term, could actually morph into a very satisfying passion. So it's not to say that it might not work for you, but it would be coming under a different category or way of being than what you originally brought it in as. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. What comes to mind when you're talking about that in that way is a number of years ago when I created the characters for children's books, and
Mhm.
they very much felt like they were divine inspired. I'm not an artist, but yet I drew them and their personalities and everything just kind of flowed into me. And it did seem like a very divine experience. However, I have not succeeded in getting them out too vastly in the world. And so I know that there are some entrapments probably in me that were revealed, but yet that's an example, I think, of one where if I handled those and moved in the direction of that passion, it could be a divine passion.
Um, well, it could be, and it would actually be included in or part of the experience that you're now having. So when you said that it didn't reveal itself in your experience, in some sense it did, because the love, the satisfaction, the feeling that you're good at something, the feeling that you're using your mind to apply itself. All of those things were added as a preference to the universe, and then it accumulates that energy that you have put in there. So you have revealed it to the universe in the way that you felt as you felt it. And then it simply returns to you experiences that are going to make you feel the way that you desired to feel, you see. And so we can't answer that question for you because you are in an evolutionary unfolding right now. You're just starting to embark on recording some meditations. You're very good at it. Yeah, there's some things being revealed to you in your experience that, in fact, are going to be very satisfying in the way that it's going to make you feel. And we just want to remind you that the universe has all of you. It doesn't just have you in the life as Heidi that you're living. It has you in every past life, and it has your lineage, and it has a large package of energetic revealings or revelations that you have given it. That this is what it's going to use to culminate an experience to you. So here you are as the human thinking it's going to come through children's books, but it could actually come quite differently, but yet be more satisfying than that would have ever been. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, well, now I read those children's books to my grandson, and he really likes them, and he knows the characters. He can point to them, he knows the names. And every time I read the book with him, I think, wow, this is a great book. This should be
Yeah.
for sale somewhere.
What would you say the emotion is as you do it? Are you feeling really satisfied? Are you feeling
I do
happy? Yeah.
feel,
Uh,
I
so
do
you
feel
are,
satisfied. Mhm.
so you will be satisfied. Just so there's no to worry how that satisfaction comes, or that you have to construct in some way the route or the way that satisfaction will arrive. It's just to know that in the satisfied feeling that I have as I conduct myself in my life, I can get nothing but more satisfaction coming to me. Yeah.
Yeah. And I also feel when I read it, a sense of the assistance that it would have in others' lives by
Mhm.
by these little ones reading these books. I get that sense as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you are actually having a great influence on people's lives in what you are presently doing, are you not?
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, you are. Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about um, some things that, like, I've experienced this when I've been so-called following a passion, maybe not my divine passion, but a passion. And I'll be right in the middle of trying to get a bunch of things done, and I'll get sidelined with a very strong physical pain or problem in my body.
Mhm.
What is creating that? What's the message there? Why is
Mhm.
that occurring at those moments?
Mhm. You are what we would call overloaded or taxed. Let's use that term. Yeah. And so, even though you are trying to create something in a direction that you are wanting to, the fulfillment of individualistic time or your free time and your self care time, let's use that, is greatly diminished or not accounted for. Yeah. And so, the divine part of you will always signal you through either emotion or sometimes through pain, even in the body, when you are not tending to yourself or not taking care of yourself enough. Yeah. So it is not that you don't want to do what it is you are trying to produce, and you are trying to use the little bit of time that you have to always be productive, that in fact you deprive yourself of anything that's not producing or what you would deem as productive. Let's use that. Yeah. And so we would advise you in the present state that you find yourself in, that you allow a little bit more me time or personal, such as a massage, such as more walks by yourself, standing outside in the grass with your shoes off, relaxing. Yeah. Some time for doing nothing, for some time for just relaxing. Yeah. This is what we would see as the problem for you. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's discuss how wounds got into the lineages, and is there any correlation to a passion we may seek from something that is being passed through from a lineage?
Mhm. Well, we would primarily say we don't look at things on a timeline necessarily as humans do, but in the present time, this is the only way we can explain to you is looking at a timeline. And so, if you looked back in creation, in fact, when life was quite difficult, getting food was something that an entire day would be spent on, or every day. Yeah. So survival became the thing that a human spent most of its time on, or focus on. Yeah. And so when that survival was threatened, it is natural for evolution to continue, and a human to live. This is how fear got enacted, or the belief that one needed to fear something. Yeah, that's shortages, not enough food, animals perhaps attacking you, winters to get through that were difficult. No lights, no heat, all of these types of things. So, in the beginning of time, this is what actually created a feeling of not being in control of your experience, or the revelation or understanding, where fear was born, where you actually got on a contrasting plane and felt as though you had no control over your experience and therefore had to suffer in it. And this is what we would say, excuse us, began this process or unraveling of a human in the evolution of themselves. And then as time went on, these fears or ways of being got imprinted. And by an imprint, we mean actually the energy centers get a depression in them, or the belief becomes so strong and so held by so many that it becomes automatic. Yeah, it's in there. So a human is born now with the imprint of its ancestry in its suffering, and therefore it's like a player piano. You've put in the role and you know the song that's going to play. Yeah, and so every human is then coming in with that imprint or that way of being, and then but as they adopt that unconsciously, and they don't notice that they have a choice, or that they are the creator that they are, and that they can start to manifest differently in the way that they think, they go on this autopilot of the player piano, or the role or the imprint that is in them, and they create from suffering. And but we always say is the divine is expanding either way. The divine is getting the benefit of the energy you are releasing, and it's becoming more because of it, and so are you. And but now we are at a period in time where we want to leave evolution out of the picture, really. And we want you to be the producer of your own future by the way that you feel, by moving into mastery, by not acting on or playing the old song from the player piano or playing out the imprints that are in you. We actually want you to create a fresh new way of creating from freedom, from happiness, from joy, from the understanding that I don't need to play the same old role anymore. I can actually create a song that I like the sound of. Yeah.
Hmm. So, as far as these imprints in our chakras from our lineages, if there was, for example, an imprint of poverty and worthlessness or embarrassment, those types of emotions contained from an ancestor, um, could that then push someone into a passion that would make them feel that they were none of those things, and then as a result end up in a uh, negative experience because those emotions would flood forth after they achieved what they wanted to achieve?
In the duality that you live in, there is always the option for positive or negative responses to experiences based upon the experiencer. So there are those that, and we believe that, if correct us if we are not answering the question correctly, there are those, we'd use your Oprah Winfrey, for example, that suffered a lot of abuse and negativity in her life and actually used the energy for her betterment or fueled her in another direction that actually created more successfully for her. So this would be an example of how duality, or the way that one chooses to think based upon what they experience, can actually they can actually use that feeling or that negativity to propel them to higher states of consciousness. Or in opposite, one can become victimized by it, believe that there's no way out of it, and align to the fact that they are a victim, that they do not have free will or free choice, and therefore their experience will be one of suffering. Yeah. So is this an answer to your question, Heidi?
It is sort of. I just was wondering if that behavior that came through those imprints are what pushed their passion. Like maybe they wanted to, not like an Oprah, who obviously that seems to be a divine experience, like someone who wanted to be in charge or had a big ego so that they
Yes.
didn't have to
Yeah.
feel like they were unimportant or
Well,
that they didn't have
when you're in the three lower energy centers, an ego is not a bad thing, because the ego is what motivates the human to work hard and to actually provide itself with experiences that it cannot do otherwise. When a human's creating in the first three energy centers, there is lack, there is worry, there is fear, there is condemnation, there is judgment, there is comparing, there is not enoughness. Yeah, because this is what the human believes as it creates in this way. As you start to elevate your consciousness or become aware of the creator that you are by picking and choosing the way that you feel, you start to open up into the fourth, or the heart center starts to open, which is the beginning of the fourth dimensional reality. And then eventually, as it continues to move on up in those energy centers, you start to create in a whole new way because you are giving yourself access to it in your perception or your belief of it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're not quite sure if we correctly answered your question. Could the imprint actually reveal a passion to someone that they are wanting to? And we would say yes, but the imprint, or the way that a human lives their life, is creating the next life that they will be living, and the passion that they will have in it based upon what they hold within themselves. So as you sit here right now, we're just using you an example. We're not saying it's true. So don't take it personally. It's not about you. But if you were sitting here yourself, Heidi, imprinted with some injuries or ways of thinking or victimization thinking, then your experience would be revealing that to you, and you would actually be setting up more and more experiences, and perhaps a passion would be formed that you would be easily victimized in, and it would actually grow that aspect, or that imprint, yeah, to a larger degree, to be felt more intensely, and therefore encourage you to heal it. Yeah.
Sure. So let's just kind of touch on these imprints and how they can grow from lifetime to lifetime.
Mhm.
I'm assuming, being that the level of consciousness on the planet now is one where there are a number of people working on themselves, that the imprints and lineages are decreasing. Um, but over time, was there always people working on themselves, or did these these imprints just get to such a high number that it created this basically miserable experience where people thought, okay, we need to start working on some stuff.
Yes. Well, to some degree, we would concur that the size of the energy or the impact that it has is something that draws attention to or a wanting to heal it or relieve oneself of it. So growing it is a natural response or something that occurs very naturally for good reason, because as it grows from one lineage to the next, those that take it on feel it more intensely and therefore have a quicker response to it or earlier, let's use that term, early reveals in earlier in their life. It will start earlier, let's use that. And so they have a longer length of time in the life that they're living to actually start to take a look at these imprints or energetic entrapments that they are experiencing and suffering, and actually start to create in a whole new way. Part of suffering in the third dimensional reality, as we talked about earlier in your timeline, was related to density or the ability to create outside of the first three energy centers. Those energy centers are not bad, they're not wrong, but they held the perceptions of becoming the human and not having the ability or the godlike tendencies that are available to create in new and different and innovative ways. And so it's a gradual shift or a waking up. And there were a few, we would say, in your world that actually came in enlightened or what you would deem as knowing or awake. And these people, but the numbers were not big enough to actually impact the entire population or the vibration of the entire population. As time has gone on, that number is greatly expanded, and therefore the vibration is increasing just by those numbers being there. More beings walking the earth with a higher vibration actually create a natural rise in consciousness or opening up of the upper energy centers, and therefore a new way of creating. It's a very natural evolution that is occurring through the desire that those that went before you in suffering in their experience, in difficulty, in not really being able to express in their creative way or their passionate way. They were in survival mode. They had to eat, they had to have a shelter, they had to do everything manually or by themselves. And so therefore the creative side or the upper center side was not, there was no time for it. It was not being expressed. Yeah. But then now as time went on, and then the human created avenues or ways for itself to live in a better environment, an easier way, then this is what starts that very gradual expansion of consciousness and then the ability to apply oneself in other areas rather than just survival mode. They move into creative mode. And the creative mode is the higher mind or the God aspect. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's all we have for you today. Thank you, everyone, for listening. And like I said earlier, please check out our website for upcoming courses and events and check out our Q&A. And thank you for listening.
Thank you. Have a good day.